All right, so one more time, let's submit this form and look at the object we get from Joy. So here in the console, this object has an error property. This is only set if we have at least an error. Otherwise, error is going to be null. Now in this object, we have details, which is an array of objects. So the challenging part of this task is to map this array into an object. That is our errors object. So back to our validate method. On the top, we're calling joy.validate. We want to keep this, but I'm going to delete everything else here because we are going to rewrite this code from scratch. So we get the result object. If result.error is falsy, we want to return null. Otherwise, we have to get that array and map it into an object. So we define our object. Now we need to iterate over that array, and for each error message, we should add a new property to this object. So here's our details array. In this array, each object has a message and a path. These are the properties that we're interested in. This path property, as you can see, is an array, and the first element in this array is the name of our target property. So one simple implementation to map this array into an object is like this. For let item of result.error.details. So we iterate over this array. Now each item has a path property, which is an array. The first element here is the name of our target property. So using bracket notation, we set errors of. Now we're setting a property in our errors object. What is the value of that property? Is an error message. That is item.message. So this is how we can map an array into an object. Now, some developers don't like to use a for of loop. They prefer to use the map method of arrays. You can also use reduce. The implementations can get a little bit complex for some students. So for clarity, I'm going to stick with this for of loop. Finally, we'll return our errors object. Now let's test the application one more time. So I'm going to submit this empty form. We get 2 errors. Let's fill out the username. The error disappeared. Let's fill out the password, submit the form again. Beautiful. However, there is a tiny issue here. Let me refresh this page, submit the form again. Look at the capitalization of this name. We have username with a lowercase u. This is coming from our schema. But when displaying error messages to the user, we want to have friendly names. So here we can call another method, label, and assign a friendly name to this field, like username with a capital U. One more time for the password. Now save the changes. Back in the browser. Let's submit this one more time. The issue is gone. Beautiful. So we're done with re-implementing our validate method, but there are a couple of things I would like to improve here. Note that we're referencing result.error in a couple places. So it's better to use object destructuring to pick the error property. And with this, we can remove this duplication. That is better. The other thing I would like to improve is this third argument here. That looks a little bit ugly to me. For these first 2 arguments, we are referencing objects in this class, but then all of a sudden we have these curly braces, which look a little bit like a code block. And as you can see, our third argument has ended up on a new line. This is a little bit confusing. So I personally would like to define a new constant, call it options, set it to our third argument, that is an object with this property. Okay. Now, instead of passing this object here, I would like to pass options. With this, we don't have our third argument ending up on a new line, and our code is more expressive. All right, we're done here. Next, we will re-implement our validate property method.